Okay, so we have made 3 different sizes: 3 inches, 3.5 inches, and 4 inches. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 4-inch size, stay on the slanted surface, and we're going to fold it very similar to the way that we did for the lily flower. Only this time we're only going to make 8 petals and not 16, so we're not going to be going so far, or we're not going to have to fold it that last fold. That was probably pretty difficult. So I'm going to bring this over here and fold it in half. Okay, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. And once more. We're essentially going to repeat making that petal pattern with each of these, but for the next step, we're going to cut off a petal. So I'm going to go in here. And we don't actually completely cut it off. We're going to leave a tab that we're going to use to glue. And then what I'm going to go through and do is just bring all of these to the same, all the flowers, so they have the same amount of cut in between. That's alright. Okay, once we do that, we're going to round the petals off like we did last time, just to give them some extra petal-like stuff. Once you got that, you got a pretty looking flower, and you can basically go take your glue stick or your white glue or your hot glue gun or your tape or whatever you got. Put a dab, squish it down. The nice thing about this one is if you make any mistakes on the inside, no one's going to really notice because you're putting more flour on top of it. If you make mistakes on the outside, people might notice. But, you know, that depends on how you decide to cover it up. If you get another flower, or you make a stem or a bud formation or something like that, that should help out with that a lot. So I'm going to go and I'm going to make each of these petals, each of these flower sections, and egg glue them together. And then I'll show you how to put everything together on the flower. Okay, so I think I have found a method that actually solves most of my problems with getting the petals symmetrical. I just made this one with that method and almost had to do no extra trimming at this layer. It saved me about 5 to 10 minutes. So if you look at the petal folded up, which is eventually going to be, this, um, the bonded edge, the edge that's completely folded over like this one, you end up cutting everything at an angle. So you're going to cut that open, and you're going to cut that one a lot further up than the other side. So you're actually just cutting, you're not cutting the initial petal symmetrical, like that. So it's not like we cut here and then our line's there, and we work off of the symmetry of this petal. Beforehand, from the very first thing, we actually cut the petal lopsided to start out with. And as I'm saying this, I realized that was in a YouTube video, and I was just, didn't realize it. So you actually want to cut the petal on its side. And then when you open it up, then you're going to repeat the same process. You're always going to want to cut a little bit more off of this bonded edge. So we're going to go in, and we're going to cut that shape with the bonded edge again. I'm not going to do it to the edge that doesn't have completely folded over. We're not going to do it to that edge. We're just going to do it to this one. So when we open up, it's actually a little bit more symmetrical than it was beforehand. And again, on both of these edges, we're going to cut it so we take a lot more material off. And when you open it up, it's pretty okay. This is still taking me a little bit to master. For example, you kind of have to go in and trim stuff down regardless. But the big idea is just repeating this shape on this edge. So for example, for here, we should probably trim this down a little bit. In other news, it's now time to go from being a 6-petal flower to a 5-petal flower. So 2 6-petal flowers, 2 7-petal flowers, and then we're going to go to a 5-petal flower. The 5-petal in this case, we're going to take off 2 petals and leave 1 tab. Ripping flower petals is an issue you might run into when you try to form the petals while they're already together, or if you haven't cut enough relief, or if you've cut too much relief. That can also be an issue. Okay, in my case, I should have formed them before I stuck them in here, and I probably didn't have enough relief cut. The good news with these types of flowers is no one is ever going to see that, because this flower is going to be completely inside. Careful with trimming bottoms because that reduces the structural integrity of the flower, but it is going to help it when I'm putting it into this. I'm sorry about the beeping. They're doing elevator repair in Wads, and the parking lot outside my window is their staging area. So my card filled up. So I don't know where I left off in that video. Where I'm at right now is I've glued the 7 petal and 6 petal pieces of flowers together, and I got this horrible bead of hot glue sitting right in the middle of everything, and I think I'm going to have to go deal with it. And the next step is going to be to glue in the 5 petal pieces. Because I have this horrible bead of glue sitting in the middle of everything, getting them in there is going to be even worse. And this is basically it. This happens to be a pretty full looking flower. You can do this several other methods. You can do, angular flowers that are more cone shaped as opposed to flat shaped. You could glue a base on here. You could use, for each of my different layers, I had, they were both pink. Each of the 7 petal layers was pink, each of the 6 petal layers was pink, but you could do white, you could do red, you could do purple, or whatever weird color combination you want. You could even make a Michigan Tech theme flower and have black and yellow, although that might look horrendous. I really don't know. You can even create just bigger amounts of these. There's probably other really cool ways to do it. Like you could have flowers with these bended all the way down, so you don't really see the bottom, you just see this massive puff of flower. But those are just ideas. This is just the basics of how to make this style. So thank you all for watching, and tomorrow we're going to go over some of the ideas with making this decorative piece, this center point, and whatever you want to call it, and some of the different things that you can do with it.